Do you go with the sure thing and Brian Hoyer, a guy who has struggled, admittedly, you are right about that, or do you go with the complete unknown, the guy who is under 6 feet tall, and a guy who had a real bad fumble against Buffalo last week?
All right, well, time out. Let's just talk about the Browns this year. Their record is not representative of how good they are at all.
Okay.
Look at do one of you have their schedule up right now?
I got it right in front of me, bud.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's look at the teams they beat.
They've got wins over New Orleans.
All right, here we go.
Yep.
Yeah, New Orleans.
Tennessee.
In the NFC South.
Pittsburgh.
You go ahead. List them off. Go ahead.
Tennessee.
Yep.
All right, Pittsburgh.
Yep.
Pittsburgh's a good win. Won't take that one away from them.
All right.
Oakland, Tampa Bay, Cincinnati, and Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
So about maybe 2.5.
All right,
maybe
now
good
their
wins.
losses: Pittsburgh,
So they're 1-1 against Pittsburgh.
Baltimore.
Okay.
They lost to the Jaguars.
Hey, so did the Giants, man. I got you. That's cool.
The Texans without even Fitzpatrick playing. Mallet was playing that game too.
Okay.
He looked good in that game.
With a torn pectoral.
And then Buffalo last week.
And then Buffalo. And how many points did he put up against Buffalo? 3 in 3.5 quarters.
Right, but okay.
He's literally has done nothing. The Browns defense is good too. And every game they've won has been on a last-second fluke drive, basically due to mistakes by the other team.
He's a smart guy.
Last-second fluke drive. I mean, Brian Hoyer straight out of the Tom Brady school of clutch. I mean, he was back up in New England.
Yeah.
A little bit of a home price, but you've seen
This is some sort of joke.
Patented.
If you're asking me which quarterback matches up better against the Indianapolis Colts defense, a squad that is unorganized, a squad
Neither
that
of
is
'em.
prone to letting up big plays, Brian Hoyer executes. That's what he does. He runs plays the way they're supposed to be run. Johnny Manziel is chaos. You never know whether you're going to get a big fumble, a sack for negative 18 yards, or a big play. I mean, Brian Hoyer is very disciplined.
Time out. You say Hoyer executes. He has 11 touchdowns and 10 interceptions this year. What team do you
Put him
start
to
someone
shame,
with
man.
11 TDs and 10 picks?
Execution.
I mean, he hasn't had the best receivers. Josh Gordon's been out. Jordan Cameron.
Miles
Concussion.
Austin is his number 2 right now.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, but Miles Austin's out.
Miles
Look at the-
Austin.
look at
Tony
the
Romo
cats he
turned him
has.
into a star, though.
I mean, half of those picks are balls that are coming off of
They
fingers.
had a crowded out running back game, too. They had
Johnny.
Crowell. They had to cut Ben Tate, who was the starter at the start of the year.
Johnny.
And then
Listen.
Terrence West is getting carries, too. They have a strong run game,
Okay. Johnny,
and they still cannot throw the ball at all.
Johnny, this is a Browns team that, if I'm correct, I believe they haven't made the playoffs since 2002, right?
Yep.
Okay, so if you
I actually have no idea.
okay, well, you sounded smart there for a
Not
second.
for a while.
Here we go. If they don't make the playoffs since 2002, do you really take a chance with a guy who is a notorious off-the-field partier, a guy who can barely keep his act together in Johnny Manziel, a guy who's going to turn the ball over for you? It's going to happen. I know Hoyer has his turnovers, but Manziel is a sure thing to turn the ball over. Or do you go with a guy who can be consistent and manage the game and maybe squeak into the
The guy
playoffs?
who can consistently put up 3 points on the board
2, 3,
in 3.5 quarters
6.
and lose games to terrible teams like the Jaguars, like the Texans.
What makes you think Manziel would be
and-
better?
At the end of the day, they're 7-4, man. I mean, what more can you ask
Yeah,
for?
he pretty much single-handedly led them to wins. I mean, against the Falcons, played bad the whole game. Yes, granted, but when it came
You
to
can
clutch
throw
time,
me. You can throw me in the backfield, and I can hand the ball off
You
30
throw
times a
me in
game
the
and throw
backfield.
3
That is-
picks against the worst defense in the NFL.
I mean,
You
he kept
said
them in the
yourself,
first
worst
Steelers
defense,
game,
and he threw
won them the
3
second
picks
Steelers
and
game.
0 touchdowns.
The Jags.
Okay, Johnny, here's
Well
You
aware of
said
that.
the Falcons
Well
were the
aware of
worst
Speaking of
team.
worst defense in football is
Yeah.
Atlanta.
Yeah, no, that's
Nick's
also
got
true.
Nick's got something to say.
7 wins is more than Cleveland gets any given year in this century, and he's already done that.
Are you
12
from
games into the
Johnny?
season.
Are you from
Yeah,
Cleveland?
because they assembled a better defense and better running game.
Defense is
They had
stout.
the same defense last year, and they only won 5-6
That is
games.
true. Joe Hayden. Yeah, that's
Hoyer
good.
was 3-0 last year. I mean,
Best defensive
if Hoyer
back?
had played the whole season last year, I think that would have
That
been
guy's
a
in
playoff
Arizona,
team.
Patrick Peterson.
No, best defense back is Chris Harris on the Broncos. Hate to break it to you.
Ooh,
What do you say?
Chris Harris.
Can you repeat that, sir?
Say it again.
Chris Harris Jr.
Is the best defensive back in the league?
Yeah, according to Football Outsiders.
Is the what now?
He's the best.
According to
Throwing it
football.
out there.
I mean,
I would
Patrick
put Revis
Peterson,
and
Darrell
Peterson
Revis,
above
Richard
him.
Sherman. Has Football Outsiders heard of these?
He's in that
All right.
conversation.
Brent Grimes had
Yeah.
a phenomenal catch the other day. Pretty much the same as Odell Beckham's, but he didn't get the coverage because he's not a first-round pick at LSU.
Johnny, thank you for calling in, man. We really
Yeah,
appreciate
because
it.
he doesn't play on Sunday Night Football. All right. Well, I got to go, but
Yeah.
when's
Looking forward to
this
seeing
show
Hoyer lead
happen?
him to
I
a
want
win
to
this
call in
week.
some more.
Absolutely. Wednesdays at 8.
All right,
Good having you,
perfect.
Johnny.
Thank
Pleasure.
you. Good talking to you.
All right, have a good one.
Good one.
See ya.
All right, guys, let's get away from the NFL and let's talk about some college football. The rankings came out last night. We have Alabama at number 1, Oregon at number 2, TCU at number 3 over Florida State, and Florida State at number 4. We also have some upcoming games this weekend. Georgia Tech facing Florida State for the ACC Championship, Alabama facing Missouri for the SEC Championship, Oregon facing Arizona for the Pac-12 Championship, and Ohio State facing Wisconsin for the Big Ten Championship. What I want to know is who's going to take home the trophy from these championships. Let's start off with the ACC Championship, guys.
I mean, I think this could be somewhat of a trap game for Florida State, as silly as that sounds. I think Florida State's on a big high from winning 28 in a row, and I think that this is a Georgia Tech team ranked number 11 that is no slouch. They just beat Georgia, who has been a good team all year. I mean, Nick Chubb or Todd Gurley or whoever you want to throw back there has been putting up yards. I mean, I think this could be a game Georgia Tech wins.
Yeah, no, Florida State's going to win that game. I mean, it's a team that hasn't lost in hasn't lost in 2 years. And you'll always say that the wins they have this year that are like one score games, you say that's luck, but you don't win 7 one-score games out of pure luck. And I mean, Georgia Tech is no Florida State. I think Florida State comes out of this one handily. I think they'll do it with a statement. I think they win by at least 3 touchdowns. That's my bold prediction of the week.
That is not going to happen. I think they win the game. I do agree with you in that stance, but I don't think they blow a Georgia Tech team out the water. Georgia Tech is a good football team. They have a respectable defense, and they have a triple option offense that demands respect. You have to respect that triple option run. And from what I understand, what I saw against Clemson, they have a quarterback that can actually throw the ball a little bit. So is this going to be a 3-score blowout by Florida State? Absolutely not. They haven't done that all year, and I don't think they're going to do that. Yeah, they're not going to do that. I think it's going to be a 1-score, maybe 2-score game, maybe win by 10 points, Florida State. Georgia Tech's a good team, and they should not be overlooked. If they do overlook them, I think Silverman's right. It's a trap game, and Georgia Tech can nip them right there.
Yeah, I mean, I think Florida State, if you're in that locker room right now, all you're thinking is, we've been slighted. We're number 4. We should be number 1. And I think they're going to look at the playoff committee, and they're going to look at the playoff hard, and I think they're going to look past this Georgia Tech team, and I think they're going to get it handed to them.
That's very possible. That could happen. That could happen.
I don't know. I feel like you have a guy down there, Jimbo Fisher, who was the coach in waiting for so many years. The man knows what he's doing. He hasn't lost a game as a head coach yet. He hasn't. You can't take that away from him. So if he's going to go in there and his boys are going to look past the Georgia Tech team, look past the L. Jackson, Paul Johnson's triple option offense, that's on him, and that's going to be something he has to, the burden he has to bear. I think this is a team that has its head on straight. They focus on football.
Points almost every game. They came to Clemson and they crushed us in our stadium, and now they're winning by 3-6 at home against us, against Notre Dame. I mean, they have a lot of games that are, Notre Dame one call, BC one bounce of the ball, that they're losing these games. This is a team that could easily be 7-4.
But they're not, because they're a good team.
Good
teams win close games.
I think it's absolutely luck when you win that many close games in a row.
Can I get into this? Can I get into this conversation?
Gabby, what do you got?
Okay, this is my take on Florida State. Florida State should be ranked a lot higher than at least give them 2 or 3. Come on, at least give them 2 or 3. This team has not lost in 2 straight seasons. Jameis Winston has not lost a game in college football. Florida State deserves a higher spot than number 4.
I mean, he's not throwing to Kelvin Benjamin. This is not the same defense that they had last year, and it's showing big time. I mean, they're winning by single scores, and when you win that many close games, it is entirely luck. I mean, one call to go your way 7 times in a row, one bounce of the ball in the Clemson game, in the BC game, against NC State, against Louisville. I mean, these are all games they could have easily lost.
But they didn't, because they're a good team. Good teams win close games. You don't win 7 single-score games out of pure luck.
I mean, it regresses year to year, absolutely. You look at the NFL right now. Carolina last year was, 12-4? This year they're 3-8 with essentially the same roster. Why? Because they're losing the 1-score games that they won last year. I mean, the Jets were 8-8 last year with essentially the same team, and they're a 2-win team this year with the same roster. They're going to regress. And next year, I guarantee you, if they play 7 1-score games, even if Jameis Winston's their quarterback and they return their whole defense and their whole offense, they're not going to win more than 4 of them. Statistics.
Jameis Winston is the reigning Heisman Trophy winner. We can all agree on that fact. Yes, he has not lost a game.
Argue that.
I mean, you guys argue everything. He has not lost a game since he's been the starting quarterback of Florida State. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. There is something to be said for that. I do agree with you on the fact that it's a different team and you have to judge this team for that team. But at that same token, they are a Power 5 conference. They have not lost a game. There is no reason for them to be 4 in the rankings behind Alabama, Oregon, and TCU.
I mean, at least give
especially
them 2 or
TCU
3.
in my,
Why
in
can't
my
well, at
opinion.
least give them 2 or 3?
Okay,
at least give
but
them 2.
if you give them 2 or 3, why? Why 2 or 3? Why not put them at 1? If I'm going to make that argument that they're 12 and 0, they should be at 1. They're the
Yeah, I
only
agree.
undefeated team.
I totally
Yeah,
agree.
Silverman. If we were still running on the AP poll, could you tell me that there's any possible way that Florida State wouldn't still be number 1 in the AP poll?
I mean, yeah, but the selection committee isn't afraid to look past the record and say who is the best football team in the nation, who would win on a neutral field.
The best
and if you
team
want
in
to
the
tell
nation
me
is the
that
one that has the best record, which Florida
I-
State.
So Marshall's number 2 then.
they've all played
So Marshall's
entirely
number 2.
different
That
teams.
would mean
They're not in
Marshall's
Power
better
Five.
than.
I mean, if you
Mississippi
want to
State.
put Alabama against Florida State, I mean, put the game in the big house in Michigan. Alabama would win. Oregon would win. TCU would win. Ohio State would win. Baylor would win.
Ohio
They would
State
lose-
would not win that
Okay,
game.
with JT Barrett, Ohio State would
Not
win.
with-
Let me be clear about that. I think Ohio State is going to entirely drop out after.
They shouldn't have
lose
been
this
5
week.
this week. They
No.
shouldn't have been.
Yeah, if they claim that they're looking ahead so much, they should really take in. I mean, that's their third string quarterback. I mean, JT Barrett was a blessing. I mean, Ohio State could easily have been like, a 4-8 team this year after Braxton Miller had gone down, but especially with this new third string quarterback, I mean, I'm really surprised they're 5, and especially in front of Baylor, that's just kind of shocking to me.
Yeah,
This is-
well,
this
don't
is
forget
the-
that
this is
Bryce
the
Petty's
same-
coming off a concussion. Bryce Petty's also injured. They're in the
That's
exact
But
same situation.
he's playing. He's playing this week.
He hasn't passed protocol yet.
He's
His coach
gonna
said he
play.
looks good.
I
He's
think
gonna
he'll
but,
play. Yeah.
I mean, they're in the same situation. And if this new kid from Ohio State comes out and he looks just like Bryce Petty, just like Braxton Miller, or just like JT Barrett, I think they still deserve the ranking. Even
This is
as
the
much as I
starting
think that's the
quarterback.
one they got wrong.
This is an Ohio State starting quarterback who tweeted out, "I don't understand why I have to go to class. I came to Ohio State to play football, not to play school."
You tell me.
He's
that-
obviously primed to lead.
Sounds like
in the
Jameis
Ohio
Winston.
State.
you tell me you couldn't see Jameis Winston tweeting that,
Yeah, but
absolutely.
Jameis-
or
that's a
Johnny
different
Manziel
story.
tweeting that.
Jameis Winston is a once in a generation talent.
Disagree.
This guy's
Okay.
Oh.
Okay.
third or fourth string.
Strongly
Okay.
disagree.
Check
Jameis
Cam
Winston's a once in a generation talent.
I'm shocked.
Okay.
Jameis Winston's a dime a dozen.
Dime a dozen.
Dime a
Dime a dozen.
Every number
He's-
one
he-
draft
he's
pick.
very, very similar to Johnny Manziel.
Wait, come again, Nick?
Every number one draft pick quarterback every year at least. I mean, Geno Smith, he wasn't number 1, but Cam Newton, even Jamarcus Russell. I mean, guys like that in college were even better than Jameis Winston was.
Yeah, Troy Smith. I don't think he even played it
What
down in the
happened to him?
NFL. Won a Heisman
He played
Trophy
a
for
few.
Ohio
He played a
State.
few.
I know. Yeah, he
We
played
had a couple wildcat formations.
Yeah,
after
he
that.
got like 6 snaps. Great. But, I mean, that's who Jameis Winston's going to be. Troy Smith, Jamarcus Russell, Johnny Manziel so far this year.
Pat White. Pat White is
Yeah,
my favorite quarterback.
Pat White. There's another.
There you go, Pat White.
Robert Griffin III. How about that?
Pat
One
White.
good year while
I
he's running a
disagree
gimmick
with
offense.
RG3. RG3's shown flashes of talent when he's had the chance. He just can't stay healthy.
With his first year, he was amazing. I mean, rookie of the year, he was even in like the MVP talks. I mean, that was the first time the Redskins
He
had made
never threw
playoffs
the
in a
ball
while.
further than 5 yards downfield, and he ran the ball with reckless abandon. I mean, there's
Yeah,
no way that
that's-
he was going to have susustainable success playing like that.
Vic?
No.
Michael Vick has not had sustainable success.
No, at the beginning of his career.
I don't know. He got to one NFC Championship game, and that's been as far as he went.
And then you got to a state penitentiary, but that's neither here nor there.
Longest
Gabby?
yard.
Okay, guys, we're going to get into some NBA. We have some pretty interesting things happening in the NBA. Recently, we saw the Pelicans defeat the Thunder. We have Durant back on the court after suffering from his foot injury. Also, Russell Westbrook back on the court, putting up 21 points. We also saw the Mavs and the Bulls go into overtime 130 to 129. And how about Stephen Curry with the late three-point shot, helping the Warriors to 10 straight wins this season? Guys, what do you think about the NBA this year?
Do you say Steve Kerr?
Stephen Curry.
Okay. I
Stephen.
thought- sorry.
Stephen.
I wanted to talk about this though, but yes, Stephen Curry and Steve.
Before we get into this,
Stephen Curry,
conversation, I want
okay,
to bring up the
sorry.
fact that the 76ers are leading in their game right now.
Okay.
We're on a 76ers win alert right now, so just track that as it progresses.
Okay. Well, Steve
Presume.
Kerr has been a revelation coaching the Golden State Warriors. This is a guy who is a perfect fit for Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. He's the leading three-point percentage shooter in NBA history with these two, the Splash Brothers. I mean, has been a phenomenal offense, but what surprised me is that the defense is just as good. I mean, they switch like it's their day job on defense. They are never out of position on a pick and roll. This team has looked like the 1 seed. I think they're going to play like the 1 seed, and I think they're going to be the 1 seed. And I think it might be very unfortunate for them that they run into the Thunder in the first round due to the lack of wins that the Thunder have had recently with both Durant and Westbrook out. They're 5-13 right now, and they have to fight. The West is very deep, but they'll make the playoffs. And if they're a 7 or 8 seed, look out 1 and 2.
What do you think about Durant's performance first coming out and putting up 27 points on the board, guys? What do you think about that?
It was amazing, but the rest of the team just didn't support him enough. I mean, he had what was it, 27 points?
Yeah.
There's not much else you can do if you're Kevin Durant there. What do you?
Yeah, I mean,
KD?
You can't score for other players.
They still have to work in the chemistry a little bit with Durant, with Westbrook, both just coming back at essentially the same time. It's an entirely different team than the one that just went 5-12. That said, I mean, Anthony Davis is a phenomenal talent, has been playing like this year's MVP in New Orleans, so I'm not really
Absolutely
surprised
agree.
they lost that game.
Yeah, I think. Well, I'd argue that Stephen Curry is definitely the MVP of the league so far. I think a lot of you guys would definitely agree that him and Anthony Davis are probably at least number 1 and number 2 in that talk.
Yeah, I agree entirely. I think Anthony Davis right now is my number 1, but Steph Curry is playing out of his mind this year.
Absolutely. I mean, absolutely. And the Warriors have looked phenomenal. They're the team that I thought the Clippers were going to be this year. I thought the Clippers as of late, but they didn't come out with the hot start that I thought they were going to.
The Clippers are still 12-5, and they're in the West. That's the only reason that they're not being talked about as much as maybe they'd like to be talked about. I think Nick made a great point at the beginning of the show. The East is dismal. You have a Brooklyn team at 7-9 at the 8th spot in the conference right now, and then the 8th spot in the West is 11-8, and it's a completely different ball game, conference to conference. You talk about a team like Oklahoma City, a team that just got Durant back. Guy puts up 27 in his first game, 0-1. It happens. Chemistry is a thing that needs to be built over the season. Can they come back from 5.5 back, 10 back of the lead of the conference? We'll see. It's a long season, but it's going to be an interesting run for sure.
What do you guys think makes the West so much better than the East? It happens year after year, but there seems to be no clear explanation for it. What do you guys think?
I mean, you see that there's, the East has its superstars, LeBron James, Carmelo Anthony, but the very good to great players, I mean, if you wanted to put together a list of the top 30, 35 players, I think 25 of them would come out of the West. I think there's just so much depth at the top line in the West that I think that's where it comes out of. Now, we talked earlier briefly about reseeding in the NFL. I think the NBA has to look at restructuring its system. I think the East and West is tend to produce swings of dominance, like the East in the 80s, the West now, which is fine over time. But I mean, right at the moment, it's not very fun to watch.
You think it should be entirely based off like power rankings, like the top 16 teams? You think it should just be one big?
I think they should have some sort of realignment. I mean, Memphis could be in the East. They're
Yeah, I agree.
geographically they're in the East.
Mark
New
Cuban
Orleans,
brought that point up this week.
You could even put the Texas teams in the East and move some of the the Milwaukee Bucks or maybe even Chicago out to the West. I mean, Chicago's in the West in hockey.
Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, Mark Cuban brought up that point this week. He thinks the NBA should be restructured. I think probably primarily it's because his Dallas team is getting in at 6 and 7 seed each year. But if they were in the East, they could probably be a 1 or 2 seed if you want to be honest. And he just wants that better structuring.
Yeah, I mean, 14-5 would be enough to be tied. What's the percentage right now? Right now, Dallas has a 7-3. They would be the second best team in the East right now if they're in the East.
And don't forget that they would be playing other Eastern Conference teams, so their record would be better than it is right now.
Yes, very true. I think the only team in the East, if Derrick Rose can stay healthy, the Bulls are the best team in the East, but I don't think he's ever going to be completely healthy again. The Raptors, I'm not still totally sold on. It's the same team, essentially, that lost to the Nets in the first round last year.
And DeRozan's out, if I'm not mistaken.
DeRozan's out
Yeah.
with a torn groin, I believe.
Yeah.
And they said a month, but, I mean, an injury like that, especially in basketball, can keep you out for a lot longer than that. So...
I mean, you can't discount the Wizards. You're going to say I'm a homer for this. They're 11-5. They had a decent playoff run last year. They have the experience. They have Bradley Beal coming back from injury. They've had great contributions from Rasal Butler. It's a team that can very well go deep in the playoffs if you let them.
Yeah, and you might call me homer for this, but that team still has Paul Pierce, who provides the veteran leadership that nobody else on the Wizards can provide at this point.
Well, John Wall is a great leader. He's still young, but I think he can rally the team. But Paul Pierce has added a certain it factor to the team this year. Like, they just seem to be more structured late in games than they did last year. They're looking less young, and last year they seemed to be a collection of young and talented players. This year they seem to know what they're doing. There's more experience, more poised in late game situations, and I think a lot of that does come from having Mr. The Truth on their teams.
I think the Wizards are still a year away from competing legitimately, and I say that because of one man who is a free agent after this year, Mr. Kevin Durant, who in anybody's opinion is going home. He's going home to Washington. If he goes home, you get John Wall.
Perimeter. Who's going to stop that offense? You still got Marcin Gortat and Nene, who can provide a tough inside presence. That team's a championship contender immediately if you had Kevin Durant.
Well, yeah, any team with Kevin Durant's going to be able to contend. But I think, you list that offense, you might have a similar situation to what's happening in Cleveland right now, or sort of started the season more. They're starting to get it together, but just a lot of I want the ball, with a lot of guys that have been the first or second option that are now forced to be the third or the fourth option. Nene wants his touches. He gets angry when he wants his touches. Paul Pierce wants his touches. He is probably going to retire sometime within the next couple of years. John Wall wants his touches. Bradley Beal wants his touches. And these are guys that are not quite used to sharing the ball yet, especially when Kevin Durant is the best scorer in the NBA.
I hear there's only one ball on the court argument. There was only one ball on the court in Miami, and they won 2 titles down there. So that can be gotten around.
John Wall's absolutely not a selfish guy. He's the same guy that said after the win against the Cavaliers a week or so ago, he says, "I'm not a one-on-one guy. I've never had the ball thrown at me since my rookie year and said, hey, go win this game. I win games by playing it the team way. Getting open shots, moving the ball, getting hockey assists. That's how I win basketball games. Some people look at it by numbers. I look at it by filling the stat sheet and coming out with the W." John Wall doesn't give a damn if he gets the shot or not. He'd be more than happy to give away some of his touches to Kevin Durant.
Yeah, that
Kevin
sounds
Durant's
like
a
the
guy
opposite
who
of Kyrie.
you give the ball, he scores. Who better to give him the ball than the guy who led the league in corner assists last year and came in the league third in assists or second in assists last year, and John Wall? That'd be a match made in heaven. And Paul Pierce is done the same year that Kevin Durant becomes a free agent. I think they did that by design.
If you want to talk about Miami, that team really didn't gel. They didn't win their championships until Chris Bosh was clearly in the third banana role. When he was taking his shots, Chris Bosh is a phenomenal player. He's been putting up 25 a game almost in Miami this year. He's absolutely a guy who can be the number one on a playoff team. But I think Nene is a guy who's going to want to do that, and Bradley Beal is a guy who's going to want to be that guy. And I think those one or two of them might leave.
Bradley Beal has superstar potential. I agree, but I feel like the situation between like the Cavaliers and the Wizards is entirely different. First of all, Bradley Beal's a shooting guard. Kyrie Irving's a point guard. Having a point guard that takes too many shots is bad for your offense, anyways.
Kyrie Irving's essentially a 2-guard.
Yeah, he's a combo guard. He's a Russell Westbrook of sorts. The thing with Kyrie Irving is Kyrie Irving was used to being the guy. He wanted to be the guy that put up all the shots. John Wall doesn't have a problem taking the step back. Bradley Beal would be a completely different player than Kevin Durant. He'd have a different purpose on the team. I feel like the offense itself would work perfectly because you'd have an inside-out team because you'd have Gortat and Nene smashing on the inside of the post. Then you'd have John Wall who can cut to the basket, distribute the ball. Kevin Durant who can hit it from anywhere on the court. And then you got Bradley Beal who can take threes. I feel like that's just such a great, diverse offense that like no one would have any solutions to.
This is all figuratively speaking.
It's fun
of
to
course.
figuratively. I really think there's 2 scenarios for Kevin Durant. I think he stays in Oklahoma City.
Or goes to Washington.
He builds the face of the franchise. No, I think he might want to go to LA.
Why would he go to LA?
Play for the
Why would he
Lakers.
want to go to
trash?
Why would he want to go to
he's
LA?
gonna play for the Lakers?
Well, how much money does Kevin Durant make? Because that's a big
Hello.
deal.
I mean,
if Kobe stays there another year with that max contract,
The
they
deal
can't
he made
afford
with
Durant.
Nike has enough to supply him. He doesn't need any more money than he already has.
Kobe or Durant. I don't think that either of them would be really mad about the money if they were going to play together for a year or two. I think that would be a championship caliber team.
I actually would like to see that duo, though. I would like to see that duo.
Who's going to shoot that ball?
Yeah,
Who's going to distribute?
Kobe Bryant is the only player in NBA history with 30,000 points and 6,000 assists. For all the flack we give him for not passing, he's the only guy who's ever scored at that level that has also passed at that level.
I think a combo team with Kobe and Durant on it would have probably the highest points scored per game and the lowest assists per game as
Oh,
well.
I agree with you 100%.
That'd be very fun to watch.
It'd be all that offense would be so terrible. It'd be nothing but isolation, ball movement.
It would just be
Oh my
Kobe
gosh.
and Kobe.
You put a
and
double
Durant.
team on.
Yeah, they don't need
Kobe,
other people
or
to help
you can
them
switch
score.
around
It
with
would just be
Durant.
Kobe and
You want to
Durant.
double team both of them and leave the rest of the guys open? I think
No,
they
the
both know
rest
how
of
to
the guys
pass.
Swaggy P, what are you gonna do?
It would be 2 against 5.
I mean, they're gonna get Julius Randle back.
Swaggy P. Swaggy.
Swaggy
You need to
P.
cover him.
If you're gonna leave Nick Young wide open, he hasn't earned the nickname yet.
Jeremy
If you're gonna leave
Lin.
him wide open. If you're gonna leave Jeremy Lin wide open, they can make shots. They're NBA players.
I just feel like Kevin
Steve
Durant.
Nash will be back next year.
Kevin Durant has 2 options: OKC or Washington. He would not go to Lakers. Everyone thinks the free agents want to go to the Lakers. No one wants to go to the Lakers. If people
Well,
want to go to the Lakers,
Especially
they go
not
to the
right now, I
Lakers.
believe.
All right, let's move on. Let's talk some
Dwight
NHL.
Howard?
Let's talk some
okay,
NHL.
let's-
Immediately.
Let's talk about Clemson football. The Tigers faced their biggest rivals this past weekend, Carolina, defeating them and breaking the 5th-year streak for the Gamecocks. The Tigers were dominant on both sides of the ball. Guys, what do you think? What do you think about the performance of the Tigers Saturday?
35-17. And I mean,
Wow.
Deshaun for Heisman next year. If he stays on the
Deshaun,
field,
man.
if he plays every game,
bold.
he's gonna win a Heisman. That's not a bold prediction. He was the second most efficient quarterback in the nation this year, behind Mariota.
One-legged
Heisman.
Not a
Deshaun.
bad comparison to be in. What was that?
I said one-legged Deshaun.
One-legged Deshaun. That's
Yeah. How about a two-legged
for real.
Deshaun next year?
Yeah. If a one-legged Deshaun can put up 35-17, imagine what a two-legged Deshaun.
Okay. Let's
bring
let's
it
take
back
a
down
step
to
back
earth.
for a second. It was a great win on Saturday. We all enjoyed it. Had a great time. 35-17. You love chirping those South Carolina fans and telling them, where to go and what to do with themselves. Have a little bit of a sophomore slump because you're transitioning to a new offensive coordinator. Maybe not a new system, but it's still a different feel. This is a guy who had promises made to him that Morris is going to be here all 4 years while he was at Clemson. That was a promise made to Deshaun Watson, and he was here for 1.
I mean, I don't think adjusting to a new system will be a problem because he had to adjust to a new system this year. It was his freshman year. And he prospered in it. He prospered. He was the second best quarterback in the nation. I think he's the type of player that can prosper in any offensive system. I wouldn't put him too much under center and like I formations or anything like that. As long as you have him running the spread, I think any sort of variation of the spread, Deshaun Watson will be successful.
All I'm saying to you guys right now is that he's a kid. He's 18 years old right now.
That's true.
We have a lot of expectations on this guy right now. A lot. So if he falters next year and feels the weight of the Clemson fan base on him, feels, how quickly did the Clemson fan base turn on Cole Stout? If he has a couple bad games in a row, he throws a couple interceptions.
I don't
What's
think
gonna
he's
happen?
capable of doing that, though.
Deshaun Watson is an extraordinarily mature young man. It's a very similar story to Jaleel Okafor, who is a star freshman for Duke right now. They were thrust into the leadership role in their household very early. They had to take care of sick mothers. Matured them beyond their years, and I think it gives them the poise and the maturity within sports and within life to act like someone with a much more vast well of experience.
And I mean, Deshaun Watson will be even more successful next year, in my opinion, because look at the talent that's coming in. You got 2 offensive linemen coming in that are very strong. You got Mitch Hyatt, Jake Morgan. He's going to have Artavis Scott and Mike Williams returning. He's going to have Deion Kane, Ray McLeod. Then you got Wayne Gallman. That offense has so many players. If an offensive coordinator can't make an offense with those types of players successful, they don't need the job anyways.
And he's also going to be playing from behind next year. We have a defense that's graduating a ton of seniors, a lot of guys that
true.
are going to be, quote-unquote, irreplaceable. So it's going to be a different season. I think expectations need to be hampered a little bit. We need to take a step back and maybe not expect the entire world from Deshaun Watson in his second full season. His only full season if he can stay healthy. Just hamper expectations, go in with an open mind, and
I've said
expect
it
the
before.
best.
I've said it before. I'll say it again. His junior year, Clemson will win a national championship. I think that's the year they're most positioned to win the national.
I mean, you're not exactly going out on a shaky limb there. Yeah, they're positioned for a 2016 run. That's exactly what you're right. They have big-time recruits coming in. You got recruits coming in next year that are going to learn the defense, maybe get a little bit more solidified on there. And you have hopefully a third-year starter in Deshaun Watson. Yeah, that's a reasonable expectation to have.
Yeah, I mean, look at this team. We have an absolute stable of running backs. We have a bunch of track stars at wide
Wayne
receiver.
Gallman,
we're only
Tyson.
going to get more. I mean, if you're a wide receiver right now and you can look at any college in the nation, I think you're going to Oregon, you're going to Clemson, or you're going to Texas A&M, or you're going to Baylor. That's it.
Yep, Baylor.
Well, let's look at the defense. The defense had an excellent game. Right now we're ranked number 1 in the nation for defense, guys. The defense really put it on the Gamecocks Saturday.
Absolutely. I mean, and if you had asked me which coordinator I would rather have after the season if one's going to leave,
Definitely
I'll tell you
defense.
Venables, and I'll
Yep.
tell you Venables, and I'll tell you Venables. I mean, he has done phenomenal things with this defense that just a few years ago was giving up 70 points in a game we like to forget.
Who would have ever thought that Clemson would have the number 1 defense in the nation? Who would have even thought that and like not laughed.
Not
at
me.
that.
I mean, we had
that would've- that
Dylan
was not
Thompson being
realistic
sacked
until
4
Brent
times in
Venables
that
came
game.
in.
Dylan Thompson was sacked 4 times in that game.
You know, and that's exciting that we beat a 5-6 ball club, or 6-6 ball club.
Yeah.
So I mean, yes, we beat South Carolina and we got that monkey off our back, but it's South Carolina. We still have to go play this bowl game, the Russell Athletic Bowl, whatever it's going to be, or sneak into the Orange Bowl, a 2% chance at that. It's a wasted season for that defense, if we're going to be honest with each other. It's a team that you have the number 1 defense in the country, and they had a bad game at Georgia. We'll give them that. Everybody has, an off week, but they played phenomenally the rest of the year, and you have to take your hats off to them. You're 100% right. Brent Venables deserves to be the coordinator to stay. He needs to be the coordinator to stay. I think if you're Dabo, you got to look at throwing the man a little bit more money and intriguing him to stay and not go and interview for those big-time head coaching vacancies opening up right now in college football.
Yeah, and one of the best things about next year is that we don't have to play in the state of Georgia. We let up 593 rushing yards in the state of Georgia and 579 everywhere else for the rest of the season.
Todd
You
Gurley.
guys want to talk about the defense? We got a lot of good talent coming in next year. I'm just sitting here looking at the list now.
Nobody's going to be Vic Beasley, though.
No one's going to be Vic Beasley.
No one's going to be Vic
absolutely
Beasley,
not, but we
Grady
got-
Jarrett, or
How about
Stephon Anthony.
Boulware?
You're not going to be those guys.
whole
They're not.
defensive
They're not
line.
going to be, but they have a solid team. They have a solid squad coming in that can be decent by 2016, decent enough to contend for national championships. Sterling Johnson, number 14 defensive tackle. Austin Bryant, number 14 defensive end. Clelin Ferrell, number 15 defensive end. I can go on. These are all 4-star recruits. They got talent.
We're
Brent
not-
Venables knows what he's looking for a scheme.
Yeah,
The
I mean,
best.
We're not taking that away from you. That's not our argument right here. It's just hamper your expectations. Understand that yes, 2016 is the point you have to get to. Next year is we want to be successful. You go into every season wanting to compete for a national title, and that's the goal. That's the mindset that Sweeney has brought here. The mindset that Morris and Venables have helped ingrain in the Clemson fan base and faithful. Is it going to be a realistic expectation next year? In my opinion, no. Is it going to be realistic in 2016?
Yeah.
Hopefully. Sitting here today, hopefully. But we have a whole bunch of football to be played between here and then, and it's going to be things are going to change. It's
Yeah.
the end of
You know,
end of
right
the
now I
story.
think Clemson's main priority. Sure, it'd be nice to win the bowl game, but right now they need to figure out who's going to be running the offense next year. We need to find Chad Morris's replacement ASAP. I could honestly care less about the bowl game at this point. We just need to figure out what's going on moving forward.
We could be playing a high-powered bowl game. This could be for Deshaun Watson what the LSU bowl game was for Taj Boyd. I mean, it'll be Mississippi State or Oklahoma or Arizona are one of the teams that we're going to be slated to play.
Absolutely. Gabs?
Okay, guys, that's the end of our show for tonight. Tune in next Wednesday at 8 o'clock, and don't forget to
No, we're
call.
not gonna
Thanks,
be here
guys.
Wednesday.
Look at some of the guys that are 3-star.